final meeting of our 2-year term, which is crazy. So I will hand it first to Leslie for roll call.
Thank you, Brooke. Hold on just a second. Okay. Well, I think somebody's trying to get in. Hold on just a second. I'm sorry. No, they're not. Okay. Here we go. Okay, do we have, I'm going to do the roll call. Is Grace Absher in attendance?
I am.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth Bruce? Brooke Gill?
Here.
Melissa Goins?
Good afternoon.
Amity Kukla? Amity? Rhonda Logston? Natasha Lucas?
I'm here. I'm traveling, so I can't turn my camera on.
No worries, thank you. Chris Medley?
I'm here.
Lauren Mitchell?
I'm here.
Great. Jennifer Skidmore?
I'm here. I'm going to log back in with my camera on another app in a moment.
Okay. Mona Smith? Julie Staten? Tom Haggard? Okay, that's the roll call. I'm gonna now, I sent you all a draft of the August 17th minutes. And do we have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved. It's Chris Medley.
Thanks, Chris. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
This is Ashley.
Okay, thank you. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Opposed? No. Okay, thank you. Brooke, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
All right. I am actually going to hand it to Dr. Foster to give us an update on the commissioner and leadership at KDU.
Hi, good afternoon. Appreciate you all inviting me to join your meeting today. I'll just take a couple of minutes. I think there were some questions concerning next steps moving forward with the commissioner, and just kind of wanted to walk you guys through that process. So as you know, Dr. Glass's last day is September 30th. And the Kentucky Board of Education will be holding a special called meeting next week where they will name an interim commissioner, and they will start their search for a new commissioner. So there is an RFP out there right now for a search firm, and the board will decide which firm they're going to go with, and they'll do a national search, and we'll have an interim in place during that time. And so this is something that all of us at KD, all the associates, we've been through this process before. So the work will continue, the vision will continue, everything will move forward during that interim's term. And then hopefully we'll find a highly qualified candidate to take the commissioner's role, and that will happen sooner than later. And you probably are aware there is some new legislation that went into effect where the Commissioner of Education now has to be confirmed by the Senate. And so that is one change moving forward that we haven't had in the past. And one of our board members today, Julie Powell, is joining us, and I'll be turning it over to her in a few minutes, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about what you all might like to see in the commissioner moving forward. But I'll be glad to pause for a minute and take any questions that you might have about the next steps.
Kelly, one question I received is what happens on October 1st? So the commissioner steps down September 30th. What happens in the immediate?
Well, and the board will name an interim commissioner that will take over that role then on October 1st.
On October 1st, okay.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, well, I will turn it over to Julie Pye, one of our board members, and let her talk to you about that search and what type of qualities you're looking for in a commissioner. Julie?
Yeah, well, thank you, Kelly. Thanks for setting that up so well. So thank you for letting me kind of crash your party here. But this is something that's really important to the state of Kentucky, to our students, to our families, educators, everyone is what would we like to see in our next commissioner of education? And so we're just going to kind of throw it out there, have some roundtable conversations. Meredith, Dr. Brewer is with us and she's going to take some notes, but, you know, thinking big picture, thinking of people who you've seen in action across the U.S. commissioners, our own Dr. Glass, what are things you would like to see in our next commissioner? And feel free to unmute or drop in the chat. Lauren.
We've had this problem in our district as well, but I'd like to see some longevity. We've had a lot of turnover in education in general. And I know this isn't a quality necessarily, but I would like to see someone stay for a while and really get to know our schools and our counties and the districts that they serve and have some continuity with that.
That's great. Give some people some process time. Ashley.
Hi, while I always appreciate a fresh perspective, I personally would like someone who has experience with rural communities in particular. I know we have some really large cities in Kentucky as well, but it would be nice to find someone who had experience in that dynamic in addition to a larger area. I would love to see someone who had experience here in Kentucky at some point. Like I said, I know you all want to cast your net wide and get the best candidate available, and sometimes it's not always possible to do that, but I think it would be wonderful to have somebody who had firsthand knowledge of our state and the educational system here and the issues that we faced in recent years.
Great, thank you, Ashley.
That was exactly my thoughts.
Okay.
I think that because for the Family Partnership Council that it may be assumed, but to have a commissioner that values the family voice and who sees families and parents and students as true partners and spends as much time and focus soliciting engagement and information from that group as they do the superintendents and teachers and everyone else. So I just wanted to say that. I think we all probably, we think that's important, but I just wanted to put some words to that.
Julie, I think we've had 2 people join since you posed the question. Do you mind to just?
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, so looking at our candidates for our next commissioner of education, what are some of the qualities, and it could be, even dispositional, some personality that you would like to see in the next Commissioner of Education?
I guess in general, if you're looking for traits in a candidate, flexibility would be a good one. Somebody who's willing to pivot and change up what's been done in the past if they see it's not working, but also work with what is working, but be flexible and wow, I just totally lost my train of thought. Sorry. Not so flexible that they're changeable, but flexible that they can address a situation, realize, this is just not working. And
Lauren froze. What are some other traits? What do you see? What are some traits of an ideal leader? Are you back with us, Lauren? You froze there for a minute.
can you hear me? My screen
Yeah.
didn't freeze. Oh, okay. Did you hear anything I said, or do I need to repeat it?
Yeah, we heard about flexibility. You cut off a little bit at the end.
That was essentially it.
I think it would be good for someone to just really have a diverse work experience, like their work experience to be just diverse. And I think that could include working in both rural school settings as well as urban areas. And maybe someone that's energetic. This job is humongous, and it would be something that would be really hard to maintain for a long period of time, and unless they really have the energy to do so. So someone that's energetic and really just has that diverse work experience in their past history.
Okay, great.
Yes, I agree with Natasha. And to add to what Lauren also said, I'm thinking of a commissioner who would value a systems approach to our work in education, because it's difficult when there's a disconnect between classroom to building level to district, regional, and state levels. And I think we could do a much better job in serving our students if there's a good support system that goes through those different levels, and if we have a commissioner that values that systems approach.
Great, thanks, Grace. Anybody else?
You're muted.
Sorry, just realized that. I was going to say the same thing as along the same lines as Grace. When you think about the building leader, we always say we want a principal who hasn't forgotten what it's like to be in the classroom. And then when you go to central office people, you want someone who hasn't forgotten what it's like to be in the classroom or to be the building leader. And I think that has to go all the way up to, the state level, that they haven't forgotten what it's like to be in the trenches, for lack of a better phrase, and they're not completely disconnected from what's actually going on in our schools in the classrooms. So maybe being visible and more than just the person we see give a speech now and then. Like, are they out visiting schools? Are they, talking to district and building leaders?
So really kind of getting entrenched into the work and in our being face to face with people and talking with people. Right? How about communication style? Okay, anybody else have anything before we go on to the next question? Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody else has the hand raised.
This
Jeff-
is Jennifer. I'm sorry, I was busy working on all my tech, trying to get my camera going. This may have been said. So I agree with everything that was said about needing someone that hasn't forgotten, how to be in the trenches, how to relate at the school level, how to relate at the district level, with parents, with families, with schools. But I think it's also important that there's someone that is versatile and able to pivot at the state and governmental level as well, as someone that is able to navigate those more complex nuances that happen, within our Capitol and within our Senate and with everything that happens, politically in that political arena as well, and that is able to put on that thick skin, that is able to go to battle for us, to be able to protect those that they're in the trenches for, and able to be that speaking voice, and to be able to understand that those things are not necessarily personal or a personal attack against the commissioner or the individual themselves, but that they are charged with a role of being a mouthpiece and a representative for all, and that they are able to withstand and weather those storms, and that they can be there for the long haul and have that longevity and weather all that political climate that's going to come at them in that role, and understand when they accept that role that is a very integral part and very much a piece of what comes with it. And I think as part of the interview process and the search committee, that is a quality that we need to be looking, or whoever the search committee is needs to be looking at. And those are questions that need to be asked and vetted in that individual is, can they weather that political climate, and can they weather those pieces that are going to inevitably come at them in the role?
Great. That's for any thoughts from anyone else? Okay, so we'll go on. The next question is what should the new commissioner focus on in their first year? And Meredith, Dr. Berger dropped the question in the chat also.
I really appreciated Dr. Glass's listening tours. I felt like that set a really good tone for just the transition, and it was a unique time, but I still feel like just letting everyone know that I'm here to listen first before just kind of coming in with sweeping changes. I'd like to see that repeated.
I'd like to see some type of introduction. As a parent who doesn't work in the school system, we're often very disconnected with the commissioner. I'd say a lot of parents don't even know who the commissioner is, probably couldn't name them or recognize them by face. So I think, and also like an introduction tour, if you would, maybe ads on TV, or maybe visiting some of the big groups, big K groups. I don't know if they do that already, but just getting their face and their name out there so that parents and community members, and not just higher ups in the school district, know who they are.
I like that one. Any other things in that first year? What should they focus on? What about with students? focusing on students, what areas does the new commissioner need to focus on?
I think first off, he or she would need to see where we are right now, especially if they aren't from our state, and look at data and test scores and other types of reports to try to see exactly where we are and what steps need to go to improve students' education and their achievement.
Thank you. Yes.
I know there's a lot of things to address with students, and I agree with looking at, I mean, they have to have a good understanding of where we stand now, looking at the data. But I just think there's just a major concern on retaining teachers, and how do we retain them, and how do we retain effective teachers? I just really worry about the future with that. I think that needs to be at the top of the list.
What else should the commissioner focus on first here? Anything else?
I keep going back to the political landscape because I think it's become such a hot button topic right now, especially with our Senate Bill 150, with everything that has led into our current transition. And I think that on the flip side of everything, our new commissioner really needs to understand the elements that have led into this transition, and, really understanding what our current political landscape looks like, what our political, what our current agendas are out there, and what are some of the things that are the hot button topics in our schools regarding this this Senate Bill 150, and how they're affecting the schools, and how we can better address those to make those transitions a little smoother for the schools, and the understandings of how to implement that within the districts as well.
Great. So maybe do an environmental scan, which would also tie back to the listening tours.
Yes. And also, again, I go back to the politics, but we're also, coming into an election year as well, and understanding that piece of it, and understanding how the commissioner's role fits into all of that, and just the flow of all of that, because I don't think anybody can necessarily work in that role and not understand themselves as part of a bigger whole in that as well.
So that also kind of ties back to the first question with the characteristic of understanding. Okay.
I thought of another term for the first question, just relatable. I think a lot of those situations we were describing, for them to be relatable to all the audiences that they're going to have to be responsive to, from the, making sure the students are successful, to the parents, to the teachers, to school board members, to all the issues and the folks that they'll, work with in Frankfort. I mean, they really have to be relatable to all of those audiences. And in my business, we call it a people person, but they have to really be a people person and be able to work with all groups. And I think that's very important for this person to be able to do that.
As you were speaking, I thought of something else too. This person needs to have a passion and a love of learning and a passion and a love for kids. Because when you have a heart for kids, you're willing to go to bat for them. When you have a heart for the kids and their families and the communities that serve them, you're willing to go to bat for them. You're willing to go the extra mile. You're willing to put in the extra work. And so if you have a heart and a passion for education, but also for kids, that would be, for me, a vital characteristic that they should have.
I agree. And then also if they display that to everyone and everyone knows that, it's like the school teacher that you had when you were in school, the one that you wanted to do well for. Oftentimes when you have that kind of respect for someone like that, then you're going to try harder to do really well for them. And I think it sort of goes both ways. When they show that, they'll also receive that back.
I agree.
Any other thoughts really on either of the questions? First year or characteristics or qualities?
This is really, really good feedback.
Yeah. If you haven't had a chance, the Commissioner's Student Advisory Council held a meeting last week, and the recording is on the KDE Media portal. The kids gave some really great input too, which was very, very valuable. So if you get a chance, you might want to go listen to that. So if anybody has any other thoughts that they think of afterwards, feel free to reach out to Dr. Brewer, message her, if something comes up. And Dr. Brewer's right on the ball here in the chat, just dropped in the page regarding the commissioner search. So thank you everybody for your time. The family engagement area is a passion of mine too. So I was happy to be here with you guys for this meeting. So great. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Brooke.
Yeah. And are you hanging on, Julie, or do you need to?
I can hang on.
Great. So we have been working on recommendations to KDE. This is for Julie, but also if folks have missed the last couple meetings. And we're looking at how to kind of set up the 2024 Family Partnership Council, which that could be many of us and also new members up for success, and how we really think KDE could support the Family Partnership Council. Like, what are some key strategies that could help move this work forward in a big way? So that is what we've been working on. And I'm going to kind of take you guys over to our working document, which one person is in here, and there was 3 or 4 of us in here earlier today. So I'll also share the link in the chat box in case you want to be in it. Grace, do you have your hand up? No, okay. It must have been old. Okay. It was flagged somewhere on mine, but no went away. All right. So I did put just here right at the beginning of the document, our hope was to have this to Dr. Foster by the beginning of October. Leslie, I didn't know if you could find out for us if there was someone on KDE's comms team that could just kind of design it for us to make it look a little more official, and maybe just like an image that KDE uses.
I'll check with leadership and see what I can find out.
Okay, that would be great.
Thank you.
And then I added this cover page for us. Didn't know if you all felt like short and sweet, or if we wanted to kind of package it mirroring a little bit the inspiration for this, which is the missing piece of the proficiency puzzle from 2006. And they very much have that kind of like introductory statement of who put this together and for what purpose. So we can come back to that, but I want to scroll through where we're at for now. The contents really being why family engagement's important, reflecting that this is coming out of kind of looking at those missing piece recommendations from the Commissioner's Parent Advisory Council of 2006. The snapshot, the landscape analysis that we've done collectively, where is family engagement in 2023? And then why and how that kind of folds into what we're recommending for the Family Partnership Council 2024 through 2026, since it's 2-year term, and with support from KDE. And then next steps, like what happens now with this document. So the why is just kind of that overview of the impact for students, educators, families, and schools based on the most current research from Dr. Karen Mapp and Ann Henderson, 2022. I thought if we did want to create this package, then we might want to make this like a whole page, like adding a paragraph here to kind of snapshot the research. The next section is the foundational missing piece recommendations. Again, do we want to kind of add in some context for this? Right in the draft you guys saw at the last meeting, we just kind of listed these 4 and we just kind of bulleted the why, it all in one page. And then we go into Kentucky Family Engagement Snapshot 2023. So taking those 4 recommendations from CPAC and where are we now? So what's happening across Kentucky, and this is across agency, not just within KDE. What's PTA doing? What's Frisk doing? What is happening within KDE? So Title I, I've got what's Pritchard Committee's doing. KET is on here. So Kentucky Spend. So we want this to feel like all of the family engagement, big players in Kentucky. What's everyone doing? I don't feel this is complete. But I think we could also go on forever. So I'm just kind of flagging how much more do we want to add, and maybe who should we hit up to help us fill that out. And then really where a lot of us has been spending a lot of time, and thank you all so much. Like, I know everyone is crazy right now with back to school and just fall and just so much going on. And you all really put a lot of thought and effort into getting these recommendations right for the committee today, and in such a short turnaround. We just had 2 weeks. So thank you all so much for all your work on that. But these are our recommendations that we're working with right now. We had 6 in August and we're down to 4. So that was good. And then I'm going to kind of lean into each of you all here in a minute to present your recommendation to the group for feedback. So that's the meat of the document. So, I'm kind of, part of me is thinking, are we burying the lead? Like it takes until page 6 to get to the meat of what we're trying to say. And maybe it's enough to just start with page 6 and let that be what we're kind of pushing through, and the other stuff isn't necessary. I think I could be convinced of that. And then if we do go with this longer report, then I think we really need to bookend it with next steps. So like, what are we expecting from KDE? What do we expect to see if this is done? Do we want some sort of statement back from KDE that says we hear you and we think these recommendations are great, or we'll go with 3 but 4 is ridiculous? Like, do we want some sort of back and forth, or are we just submitting it and assuming that this is where the FPC in January will pick up? Is that an assumption that we could have? So I'm going to stop now. I know I threw a lot at you all, but I think the first kind of question to the group would be just kind of general feedback on how we're presenting this to KDE and the best delivery. And Julie, would love your feedback too, with fresh eyes and as a member of the Board of Education, your input on how we can be most effective. I'm going to open it up to the group for a minute on just delivery in general.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I like the idea of setting context whenever and often and whenever we can. And so I think definitely at the beginning of the document, stating, who we are, who worked on it, who we are, why, why we're here, all of those things,
Okay.
to mirror the other document, I think is good.
Brooke, I agree with you in that each time I looked at the document, I automatically scrolled down to page 6 to really focus on that. It's not that I ignored the other stuff, but I just found myself each time scrolling down and going, oh, okay, this is where I'm interested and this is where I'm finding the information that I need. So I feel, as you do, that the top portion of that might be removable or maybe condensed. And
Okay.
for some reason, when you shared your screen, my laptop went screwy. So I'm now on my phone. I don't know if you saw that my screen froze and I had to leave that one and come on this one. But anyway, sorry.
You're good. Did anybody else have issues? Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Melissa. Other feedback on just the general kind of format of the presentation?
Well, I kind of dropped it in the chat here, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of referencing to supporting our ELL families and being culturally sensitive in different things. I do know with a lot of my work, a lot of the communication comes across much better if it's done in a video or audio format, either in English or the other languages, because many of our families, the parents are illiterate. And so you need to have different communication modes, not just written text.
I think we could add, that's good, Julie. I think that might go in our recommendation 3, which is towards family facing materials that we do recommend an online family guide, a family monthly newsletter, something coming out from KDE that's geared towards families. I'm thinking ELL materials and video messages. This document would be directed to KDE or the Kentucky Board of Education. So this would not be to families. This would be to you, to Dr. Foster, to the interim commissioner, and how we feel like the Family Partnership Council should function and focus moving forward. But I think that it could be in our recommendations of strategies. Okay. So I'm hearing maybe leaving the context, but maybe it's a reordering so the recommendations jump out first. I'm wondering if that's possible, like background could kind of go. Or just condensing the why and the foundational. Would it be confusing to lead with the recommendations? Melissa, I feel like I'm hearing you say to keep the context in the beginning.
Yeah, I can be talked out of it though. I don't feel super strong about, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure the best way, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I would keep the context in the beginning, but I would like to see maybe some linkages to some research or supporting documentations of the impact.
Okay. In the why.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can, so as far as next steps for us, because we've got an hour left together today, and then we're not set to convene again. So, if you guys could be as awesome as you were the last 2 weeks, I will work on getting all of our edits kind of in here. Love if somebody feels good about helping with a certain section, that would be great. And then I'll send it back through to all of you for edit and review. And then hopefully, Leslie, there might be somebody at KDE that could help design it. And our hope is to have it submitted by the 1st of October. So we won't convene again. We'll just have to do it all by email and Google Doc. So hoping that's okay with you guys. Okay, great. All right, so the third section, we've all put our thoughts into this. Who else do you all think we might tap to help us more fully kind of get this snapshot? I think it's going to be really important, like historically. I would have loved to have this kind of at 5 and 10 year increments since 2006. Okay, next week. Leslie, okay, that's good. I would have loved to have this every 5 to 10 years just to kind of see what kind of progress we're making and like what was new. And so it's a little hard to do it with like almost a 20-year span. But at least we're starting this process. And then the hope is that every year the FPC will update it and kind of put like new and asterisks just to show kind of what's progressing. It would also be kind of cool to see what dropped off. So at one point, the missing piece was required. Continuous improvement plans, I believe. That rubric that we were looking at was required. It's no longer required. So just kind of having that like roadmap of when things have kind of come and gone. So to get this first snapshot, I think 2 pages isn't too ridiculous. We're at really just 1 page right now. Who else could help us complete this? PTA, CNED, Kentucky Spin, Risk. It's just Kentucky. Yep. It's all just Kentucky. What are we doing in Kentucky in each of these 4 recommendations? So the idea that these 4 recommendations came to Kentucky in 2006, what did we do with them? Oh, and I thought I was sharing screen, but I'm not. I'll share screen again. Parent Camp's not on here.
I wasn't going to self-promote work.
It's all the major players in family engagement in Kentucky, so. Compiling all of that. Can anyone think of someone they might know, or even my KDE friends on here who at KDE might be able to take a stab at filling this in more?
So I don't know where this would go, but something like, so our Rotary Club up here in Florence is really getting involved in reading and getting trained as reading coaches. So somehow of pulling community-based service organizations in. So like we're getting trained by the Northern Kentucky Education Council 1-to-1 reading program. So it's the collaboration of some community organizations, but also organizations like the Northern Kentucky Education Council. I'm not sure if there's organizations like that across the state besides the co-ops.
We do have the co-ops and number 4 as providing training and support. And there's the special education co-ops. And then we have an improving relationship and communications that local school districts and equity councils are organizing out of school opportunities. We could maybe put just kind of, this was kind of our nod to the fact that like there is local district and community organizing happening, but not necessarily like state level everywhere. maybe expand that to Is that, Julie, does that capture what you're saying? Expand to encompass more local efforts and community connections? Am I hearing you right? Okay. Are there a couple folks that could volunteer to help get this a little more complete? Just sending it to a couple people who may know about family engagement work and see what we're missing.
Do you have an idea of what you think you're missing, Brooke?
No, I think more, no, I don't know what I think I'm missing. It just doesn't feel complete. Does it feel complete to you all? Maybe that's a good first question. It does. Mona's saying yes. Melissa, you're about as plugged into this stuff as anyone could be. Does this feel complete?
I was trying to think of who would be missing other than community pieces that I just don't know about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we
and
hate to get too local.
exactly. And that's the only, I keep going back to that when I'm thinking who else could help or who else would know. I keep going back to local stuff in my brain. So that's why I'm struggling with who could help us. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's complete or not. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same, Melissa. I'm stuck. Chris said he could share it out. That'd be great, Chris. Chris with PCA. Yeah, share it out, and if we send it around to a couple, maybe a couple Frisk, Melissa, who, you know,
I'm
have
happy
been
to.
around for a while. And maybe it is. Maybe I've just looked at it too long. I might have Natasha Stein look at it one more time too with Title I and SBDM, and just make sure that it feels like all of the KDE pieces are complete. So Chris, if you can send through PTA networks, I'll send to Natasha to ensure that we've captured all of KDE. And again, not all, but you know, kind of the high level stuff. Anyone else think of, and then Melissa, you said you might just ask a couple Frisk to give it a once over.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, great. All right, let's get into the fun stuff. All right, recommendation 1. Okay, so again, we're just making sure that we like the language and we're kind of in wordsmith world. Okay, hit us.
That's me. Last meeting was my first meeting with the group, so I was kind of coming in blind to all of it, but I can wordsmith, so I volunteered for that. And I did have a conversation with Brooke yesterday. Thank you, Brooke, for talking with me about it, just to make sure I was on the right track. So we talked about combining the 2 bullets about the report card and the strategic dashboard. And so I did that. Determine a relationship building and communications metric that could be added to the Kentucky School Report Card and to the KDE strategic dashboard for family and community engagement. Research other state examples and national expertise for ideas. And I did add in the key points to consider what is included on the current report card. So you'll see there just total number of parents or guardians who attended a parent-teacher conference, number who voted for SBDM, number who served on SBDM or an SBDM committee, total number of volunteer hours. And on the KDE strategic dashboard, currently the only family engagement item on there is the number of family-friendly certified schools. And Brooke and I also, down at the bottom, added, could the KDE strategic dashboard show an accumulation of the metrics listed on the school report card? Kind of show the big picture for the entire state. So that's all I had to do with that one. If anyone has any comments on the wording, it just, those 2 points seemed redundant, so we meshed them together.
Okay, open for feedback on recommendation 1. Thank you so much.
No
It's
problem.
much cleaner.
I love the bullet about KDE highlighting schools that are doing family engagement well. I think that would be fantastic. I would also say not only highlighting the schools, but in that highlight what they're doing. Are you just wanting to say this school is doing family engagement well, or are you saying this school's doing it well and here's how they're doing it? Because it would be lovely if other schools could go in and see and go, oh, okay, we could implement that.
I love that. And I also see Julie's comment there, which I completely agree with, that participation does not equal engagement. I mean, I have been a teacher in a school, a principal in a school, and a parent in a school where we had, I thought, excellent PTOs. You've got the same people doing everything, but then a lot of families attending events. So I think that, I mean, those volunteer hours, it's great. You want people volunteering in the building, but you know, how many people are actually attending the events and taking part in the family engagement activities themselves? Maybe not running it, but taking advantage of it, taking part in it. And I think that could be included now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's really hard to measure relationships, and that's what family engagement is all about.
Right. You know, we're trying to find ways to get people involved in ways that are easier for them. Like you have parents who can't be there during the day or maybe can't be at events at night, and how can we get them engaged and get them to feel like they're part of the community? That's what we're working on. I do love the idea of going to see, or at least see pictures or a snapshot or highlights of what people are doing well, because we do that as educators. We go on school visits and we go to schools that are doing things well, and we watch what they're doing so that we can implement it ourselves. That would be great to have as a PTO president, you know, on the other side of that.
Awesome. Is there, I'm blanking for a second on, is there a district level report card? And then it breaks down by school.
Mm-hmm.
So should we also, do we also want to think about how the district could highlight their family engagement efforts maybe on the report card?
Because when I looked, and I was just looking, I searched Campbell County because that's my district. So I searched Campbell County and I couldn't find anything about family engagement until you reminded me that it's under the schools. And then I remembered having to count all those hours. But I think that the district could show an accumulation of their schools, or just what we're doing to celebrate. How are they encouraging engagement.
Yeah, I know, like here in Boone County, we have a Boone County Parent Ambassador Program, which is done at the district level, and it's a year-long program. So, yeah, the district should have, be able to share and get credit for those kind of things.
I think this too, because on our last, what we got rid of from our original recommendation list was the local school board call to action, which was that local school boards will set the expectation for schools to use self-assessment tools that capture family input and have continuous improvement component, that family engagement would be a standing agenda item on local school board meetings for local school boards. So this might be a way to kind of put that in, not lose that completely. Okay, great. Anything, anybody, and again, if you're like, I need to sit with it, I don't know, or you need to play in it, I'm somebody that has to play in it, obviously. If you all want to come back and make edits, but I think for now, it feels like this one is approved. Is there anything in here that's giving you heartburn or you feel like is missing? We still have in here consider improvement metrics. So not that it's like a one and done, but how is the school proving that it's growing over time? And consider how to capture special populations and family engagement, especially minority groups. So that disaggregating by populations. I also thought for this, which are key points to consider, might be getting too long, but utilizing the 4 C's of that dual capacity model. Remember, we looked at that, and that evidence-based framework suggests that all of your policy and program goals should be based on the 4 C's. Are you building connections? Are you building capabilities? Are you building cognition? Are you building competence? So that the 4 C's might be a good tool to fall back on when determining these metrics. So I thought about adding that in as just a point to consider.
Well, and that would help the Title I schools too, then.
Because there's an evidence base.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to type that up while Melissa, do you want to do the next one?
Yes, ma'am. Good job for your second meeting, Amity. We appreciate you.
I know.
So thank you. Nobody else get freaked out if it's your first or second meeting.
I
Please
know,
come
I
back.
said, watch out, you'll be chair on your third.
Right. So the second one here is directly related to our recommendations. And so we want to say that KDE might sustain a full-time family community engagement manager at the department to oversee implementation of our recommendations. That's what I was trying to say. Collect and share local best practices and align family engagement practices with KDE and state partners. And so we have 4 bullets right now around points to consider. We referenced the full service community schools manager that is going to be or is already at the department through 2027. So this could be a partnership with that person, since family engagement is one of the 4 pillars of full service community schools. The second one is we wanted to have some kind of established relationship with this council. And so we chose the word advised, that the community engagement manager is advised by a council of families and family partnership organizations like our council. It doesn't have to be, but our council, but we're here and together. So that would be an easy, relationship, I would think, and a no-brainer. But as long as there's some kind of advisement going on by family members or family organizations, we think that was important. Third, the position focuses on gathering and distributing best practices for family and community engagement, which kind of goes back to the earlier recommendation in schools recognizing who's doing it well and then what they're doing. If there was a coordination of that at the state level to kind of pull up, here are the bright spots we have, here are the things those bright spots have in common, here's how you might do this in a rural area or an urban area or a whatever, or a low resource area or a high resource area. There's all kinds of different ways you can go about that. And I think having a person responsible to collect that information, I think would be helpful. And then last, serves TA and support for district level staff implementing family and community engagement initiatives. So we talked, I think, last meeting how not every school district has someone specifically that does family engagement, but our FRISCs do it, our Title I, or, if you have Head Start in your building, sometimes they are engaging families in a particular way. They have to have, there's some requirements around that. And so whatever it looks like at your school, whoever is doing it, they have a place they can go to where they will get some technical assistance, someone who's just through the research, who's up to date on what is working, who's up to date on what's going on across our state and how that's working. And they're skilled at delivering that out to districts as well. So I'm open for comments. Everyone loves it. It's great.
What about additional points to consider?
Is
I
this
love
position?
it. It's so, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Lauren and I have a lot to say only because it directly relates to what we're going to say when we get to ours. So we're going to probably withhold anything because we love so much what you had to say. So
Good.
We'll be quiet probably until we get to ours.
Okay, but that's a good thing. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Measurement data and stories of impact, collection, story, impact, distribution. Julie, are you saying that should be a core function? Those are the core functions of this position? Is everybody okay with me adding that as a point to consider? Oh, it's sort of here. Maybe there's. I had a because you guys know this is aired publicly, so so cool when people are listening and then they'll email me ideas. So this got emailed to me. This was a note on this one is that this person could also provide a standing report at each of these meetings. I thought that was a cool idea. So this staffer would come to these meetings and kind of report out on what's happening with family engagement across these. And so I think the way we have it kind of written is that we're advising this person, but I kind of liked that addition of them kind of providing a standing report. So I'm going to add that here.
Is this person employed by KDE? Like this is a KDE position and this is this person's job description essentially?
That's how it reads currently.
Okay.
And just for back, it is pretty common now for State Department of Eds to have a family and community engagement person. We do not in Kentucky. So that's kind of what we're recommending here is that we don't currently have anyone who's solely dedicated to family and community engagement. Now we have folks that wear that hat within their department, within special ed, within preschool, within DEIB, but not someone who's just kind of a generalist of family and community engagement. So maybe we need to make that note as a point to consider that this is somewhat common now to have this position within your Department of Ed. Yeah. other thoughts on this? These are big recommendations, you guys. This is crazy. Okay, anything else to add or take out of the points to consider? Okay. Chris, I know you're not feeling wonderful, and Rhonda had an emergency she had to step away to. Do you want me to present yours, or do you feel up to it?
No, that's okay. I can take it. So, basically what we were indicating was we thought it would be good to have a central point of focus accessible to everyone, possibly housed on the KDE website and on Infinite Campus, where everyone can go to get resources that were generated by KDE or FPC or whomever, and that might have a monthly newsletter, which would be, the content of which would be generated by a chairperson who probably would be the person above. And point number 2 would probably be the likely candidate to be that chair. And then either a rotating council of family engagement organizations and KDE members, so that we got a different perspective and on every newsletter or rotating topic for that monthly newsletter. But we would form a subcommittee to come up with that content and help KDE send that out. But yeah, so we'd have that central location, either in Infinite Campus or on KDE's website. We would help them maintain that with content, and then we'd also have this newsletter.
Thank you, Chris.
Sorry. Oh, you're welcome.
I'm sorry to make you talk more, but what do you mean? One of your bullets says families need access to SBDM information. That is public. Any family member or community member, for that matter, can come in to a school and request those documents, and most of them should be posted online. So what do you mean they need access to them? Are you talking about through a central KDE webpage?
Yeah, just more without having to go to dig for it. It would be right there with all the other parent engagement information.
Okay. I just know, like with our district, for example, with my school that I serve on the council, we do a thing called Tiger Tales Weekly. And in that, we have linked like all of our contact information for our council, our meeting minutes, our agenda for the next meeting, that kind of thing. So it's all linked in our weekly newsletter.
Right. And that's awesome. I don't know that all schools should be doing that, and they should be pushing it out in any kind of way. But I think this also just kind of means more general SBDM information as well.
Okay. Okay.
Chris, would it be like about having it all together in one spot? So like
yeah,
Lauren's school does, we would be creating kind of a system of doing that on the state level, and then recommendations for district and schools.
Absolutely. If that's what that's something that could be done there as well.
Well, because KASC does that. If you are a KASC member, which there are a lot of districts across the state that are, that's what you have access to. They tell you, for example, by July 31st, all your members need to be trained. Your CSIP needs to be da-da-da-da-da-da. So that might be stepping on their toes, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like that information's already available through them statewide. So maybe something like a link for the Kentucky Association of School Councils is on this newsletter, and how you can access that maybe. Do you Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, these were just kind of, yeah, absolutely. We could change that. I am happy to say that's very possibly a thing that could be. I've not looked at that in quite a while. I don't recall if it has like election procedures and things of that nature in it as well.
It does.
Okay, then that's fine. Absolutely.
So I'm trying to add on to this third bullet to capture what you're saying, Lauren. So many groups currently have family-facing newsletters to leverage/align. For example, KASC does the agenda news. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, sorry. Yes. And if you are for example, Woodford County, whom I represent, has a district-wide membership to KASC. So we can log on to KASC's website and access any information we need regarding SBDM laws, SBDM procedures, agendas, minutes, all of that. And they push out the agenda news, which tells councils all that information. They tell you how the elections should be run and who should be in charge of them. They tell you when you need to get your CSIP approved and updated. They tell you when you need to get your council trained. Anything that's required by law, they will let you know the deadlines coming up, etc. So the only problem with that is if you're not a KASC member, I don't know how you'd access that information. However, if you put a link to them, it would encourage more people to maybe sign up for membership or explore their website and see if it's something they want to do.
A bunch of that is
Okay.
also on education.ky.gov. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not secret information by any stretch. It's, something that people should know.
And having KASC on the newsletter and be part of that subcommittee would also be awesome. So.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the big thing here is this idea that nothing comes out from KDE directly to families. That's general. There is a DEIB family newsletter that's new that we all learned about on like 3 meetings ago. I think it was that Dr. Field showed us that. But so for example, new commissioner, like where is that? Like what vehicle from KDE, how does that get to families? I think the way this originated was we're kind of relying on districts to get that information to families, and some districts do that well and some don't do it at all. And so this would be saying that the FPC would support KDE in making sure there was always monthly newsletters out to the families. Is that okay? I'm getting a couple head nods. Chris is like, yeah, but I think what our big caution is that some districts already do this really well and some state groups already do this really well. So it's about kind of getting that all together and having something come out from KDE that links it all.
I see. Yes, I'm getting the bigger picture. I'm understanding this a little more as you're speaking about it. I get it. Because, while I'm well-versed in the KASC because I was served as a director and I serve on SBDM, a lot of parents in my district might not be. So this would be like a page where they could go to learn more about it.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah. Kind of like superintendents and teachers kind of have their spaces at KDE where they kind of collect all the things. We need a space for families to come collect all the things.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
And then Infinite Campus was brought up as a potential tool for disseminations because we know that families aren't going to kind of naturally go to the KDE website, but a lot of families naturally go to Infinite Campus. And could there be a way to kind of utilize that? Or there's the announcement feature. And then also if KDE in partnership with the Family Partnership Council kind of created these messages, there could be an easy way to kind of send that link out through some of the district parenting apps and messaging systems, especially if it wasn't too often. So here's kind of your KDE update with a link that kind of took families to that homepage of state updates.
Is it standard practice for each district to have a mode, so to speak, or an app that the whole district uses to communicate? I know ours does, but is that statewide?
I think it's getting more and more common that the district is naming the app. Melissa's saying no, maybe no.
My district just doesn't do it, that my kids go
No.
to. So, I mean, it it might be becoming more and more common. You might be right, Brooke. I wasn't saying you weren't right. I was just saying no to Lauren's question.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's everywhere.
Yeah, I get a newsletter every week. I mean, we get something, but it's an emailed newsletter that's in English and Spanish every week
From the district?
from my one of my children's middle schools.
Okay.
One school does that because the principal's amazing. She does that.
Others, do you guys have apps in your districts? Messaging apps? Ashley does. Mona, do you guys have one?
Boyle County.
Yeah.
And then I've just accepted the job with Danville and they use Blooms. And I got an email yesterday with a district-wide newsletter and it had links and that was very beneficial. You could click on.
We just started using Parent Square in Barville Independent Schools.
That's what we implemented last year as well. And it's district-wide.
I know Owensboro Davis County just went to a district-wide app. So I think which I like that, it's easier on families to not have. I wish all of the sports teams would get together and choose one app too. Okay.
For asking the question was, would it be easy or difficult for KDE to, disseminate it through, like, say there were out of however many districts there were, if there were a good portion of them that used Remind and a good portion of them that used Parent Square, would it be easy for them to say, all right, we're pushing this through that app, this through this app? But it looks like no, it wouldn't, because it's not consistent across the state.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I think KDE could set districts up with here's what to paste in your app, but they wouldn't be able to push it out directly. I think it could be sample messaging for what districts could push out. Julie, any thoughts on number 3? Putting you in the hot seat. Yeah, SPDM.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole puzzle piece to put together. Because you have to determine, what's really statewide applicable to everybody versus district, crossing toes. I know as a parent, I get a lot of complaints about different applications. They don't know where things are coming from, or they get 10 million from different places. And so it's finding that sweet spot of what will work for most people type thing. I know like in our district, most of our stuff comes out through Infinite Campus because everybody's data is already there. So Yeah, it's a tough one to tackle, and you really have to have a lot of input on it.
I wonder if this recommendation would sit better if we kind of showed that it'll be in like researching it, not just like launching it, right? Like we're not just going to throw something out on February 1st. We really want to put this, like Chris said, this subcommittee together that's going to look at what's already out there, talk to families, see what they would actually read. I mean, that's the other thing. We're all newslettered to death. I don't know if I could read another newsletter, to be quite honest. So there's that. There's the fact that in what way will people read it? I do like how KDE at the end of maybe it's each week just does the like 10 links. It's like the 10, I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's like the highlights of the week. I love that. So we could kind of show some examples to different families to see what would resonate, what they would actually read. So I think a big piece of this one is that we're not just going to like throw together a newsletter and post it on February 1st. It's going to really be thoughtful.
No, and really it's finding the right tool, because there are different tools out there. So like, okay, I'm going to say this for a parent camp that we use. It's called Circle. Well, people can pick and choose what topics they want to receive in their newsletter. And you can put feeds in, so it makes it much easier as a person doing newsletters, much easier to manage and do. And so maybe one of the first steps is seeing what anybody else is doing their research, surveying the landscape, and then finding what tools are out there that makes it not only easy to manage, but easy for users. So like our newsletter, the tool that we use is it's almost kind of AI based, because it tracks what people click on and look at it, and then it kind of modifies what they receive in their newsletters and stuff.
What about that, Chris? I hate changing people's work, but I also know we're working on a tight timeline. So I took a stab at a core function of the Family Partnership Council in 2024 will be to support KDE to research the best tool and launch an online family guided monthly newsletter. And then in 2025, FPC will support ongoing updates and utilization of this resource. Does that help to kind of slow it down a little bit?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, great. I think this would be really good, though, if it's done in the right way, because the website itself is kind of tough to navigate. Let me see if I got any. Family Partnership Council will explore Kentucky's existing modes of communications with families, partner with the appropriate departments of KDE and other statewide organizations to create frequent, inviting messages that share successful strategies for partnering with schools and clearly explain legislative updates. That's the comment I got through that public comment. We want to add that language in here too. Okay, I'll get that added. I think I can weave it through some of the existing language. Oh, potentially. Oh, include, yep. All right, Jennifer and Lauren. Number 4, fourth and final recommendation. It's going to change family engagement in Kentucky.
Ours is very similar to number 2 with 2 key differences. We recommend that schools, if they can, hire an individual who is an expert in the language of the Family Partnership Guide. So number 2's recommendation is at the KDE level. Our recommendation is at the district and school level, so that each school, certainly each district should have one, is our recommendation. Someone who is the go-to, that is well-versed in the Family Partnership Guide. We have this guide that's amazing, that's full of so many great tools. and we feel like we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to use the one that we've already got. And it's very well put together. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. So the key differences are it's at the district or school level, and it's an individual who's well-versed in the language of the Family Partnership Guide. I actually had the opportunity to talk to our superintendent today as I was picking up my son, and I asked him what he thought about that, and he was like, oh, that'd be awesome. He said our principals could really do that because they're well-versed in family engagement. And I said, principals often have a very full plate. Would that be too big of an ask? Would it get put on the back burner? And he said, well, how about, with our district, we have someone whose sole job is disseminating information through the district. And he said that might be someone who could have that put on in their job description. I thought that was interesting that's because Brooke, you had said maybe it's someone who's already in the schools, and that's where he went to first as well. I don't want to read all of our bullets because they are a little long, and I don't, we can all read them for ourselves. But if Jennifer, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yes, we felt because there was such research already done with oh, I'm sorry, the screen went away. I can't see it now.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you were. I was going to grab that.
I can pull up my own if you.
I was going to grab the link Grace referenced.
That's okay. I can grab my own here. Just one second. We felt like because there was such research done through the Kentucky Collaborative for Families and Schools, that it didn't make sense for us as a family partnership to recreate any of that planning, but rather that to make our recommendation that there be a site-based individual that became familiar with this guide that could implement it, and then also become the community expert on staying abreast of all of the changes that could happen, whether it be per semester or annually as these things changed, at the state level on this particular guide. And we really like this because not only does it offer the digital playbook, but it also gives each school step-by-step instructions on how to become, what is the language here? On how to get the family friendly school certificate as well. So that would be a fast track for many of the schools to get that certificate. And then what we also liked is if everyone is using this guide, then it forms a bit of a collaborative so that no school is like an island, that each can these resource and community managers can collaborate with one another throughout the districts and throughout the state. And then if for some reason there is a need for that individual at the school to exit quickly, let's say there is a situation where they leave for another position, or they have to leave because of an emergency, or they have to take an extended leave due to family or medical leave or maternity leave, that you have this guide where another individual could step in and they could pick up, and they have basically this playbook to follow, and it provides continuity with services for the school and a lack of transition, or at least it minimizes transition at the school level. And so our 3 points basically address the fact that we would like to see in an ideal situation a school-based individual who is using the guide, who becomes an expert in the guide, and then it provides continuity from year to year to year at the school level. We did not address funding, and I think that that's been addressed a little bit in some of the above points, that there are many ways to look at this through state grants, through Frisk centers, maybe through penny taxes. There are different ways that this could be funded. And then we said as alternatives where it may not be feasible to have an individual at each school, the district may want to look at each at the programming demographically. So there may be 2 or 3 schools within a district that are similar demographically that could be supported by one family and community engagement manager, but there may be one outlier school that has some different demographics. Maybe it's with socioeconomic, maybe it's with language. There may be a reason why you have a specific individual at one school as compared to like having one that supports 3. And that could be made, those decisions could be made at the district level as well.
Feedback, questions? The comment I got, which I'll add this to, but wanted to throw it out to you guys, that the kind of wording would be the Family Partnership Council is charged with surveying, reporting, and promoting Kentucky's implementation of the Kentucky Family and School Partnership Guide, both within schools and within KDE. And a bullet was the FPC would have representatives from Title I, Special Ed, Early Childhood, FRISC, which we already have, CASA, etc., and they would come on and report on their efforts to promote the partnership guide. So thinking about that kind of manager at KDE doing standing reports, there would also be kind of standing reports from different folks on how the partnership guide was impacting that level of work. Jennifer, no.
And also regarding Grace's comment, what you're seeing here, Grace, this was mine and Lauren's sort of think tanking. This was just a copy and paste of our brainstorming last night and over the week. And so there are lots of edits that probably need to be made to our syntax and punctuation in here. So feel free to make any changes necessary. This was just us trying to get our thoughts out onto paper.
So I have a comment and it is not fully formed, so I might need some help. I'm struggling with the hire a new person. I'm wondering. I'm trying to decide why I'm struggling with it. I get maybe because I work with schools a lot, and I think they would immediately go, "Ugh," like funding. Like I know exactly. I understand what you said, that you didn't address it because there's lots of ways to pay for it. But I'm wondering if have a dedicated staff person, or I don't know if that's better. I don't know. I'm struggling with it being a new thing. But maybe I don't need to worry about it.
Well, Melissa, we talked when we gave this to Brooke, the 3 of us also had that same conversation. We just didn't add it to the bullets. And then when I talked to my superintendent, the 2 of us had that same conversation, because I think everybody kind of hits that wall of, ooh, can we make it put it in the job description of someone who's already in the building? And while yes, you can do that, and yes, that's probably more feasible, it concerns us because will it get pushed to the back burner? Family engagement is already very far down the list on a whole lot of, like, consider your admin team. Family engagement might not necessarily be at the top of their list, but as you go higher than the administration and individual buildings, it gets less and less and less because they've got so much on their plate. So if you have somebody who's doing double duty, will it still be implemented with fidelity? Will it still be given the attention it deserves? And it may be yes, it may be no. I'm not sure, but we have had that conversation because we struggled with that as well.
And one of the things we wanted to make sure, as Lauren mentioned with the fidelity piece and this family partnership guide, was we were hoping for continuity in the reporting metrics back to KDE, because that seems to be what is missing here, is what is consistently being reported back and what's consistently being measured. So if through this process, if our recommendation could be that there is someone measuring this at the school level, funneling this back up to the district level, going back up to the state level, and that we're having consistent metrics, then perhaps we can begin to see numbers and quantitative and qualitative information that we can, see, all is our programming working? Are we being effective? And can we measure that? And can we sustain it? Or are there things that need to be changed? And do we need to make adjustments to the partnership guide? But I think I'll just leave it at that.
And maybe it would be just a recommendation and not a requirement, so that schools who it's completely unreasonable, they wouldn't feel the pressure of having to hire a new person.
Because if you can't hire a new person, doesn't mean that you can't do a lot of things. And maybe
Right.
maybe that's part of where I'm struggling, is that if you can't hire that person, well then, we can't do it, is not the answer. It's no, there's plenty of things you can do, especially if there is a person at KDE that has some technical assistance they can give you, or, maybe it's a team of people. And I'm not trying to water down like your idea, because I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you that it probably is optimal. I'm just thinking through how it can be doable, and maybe that's not my job. maybe that's not, maybe I'm taking it too far. It could be possible.
And I think that's why we sort of stopped at the funding. It was like, we're getting in the weeds a little bit. Let's just say what we would really like to see happen, and we'll stop there.
So we need to decide our approach with this one. Because I think what I'm hearing is we can go with the kind of strong recommendation of hiring someone. Or we could say that it just needs to be someone's responsibility to be collecting it at the school level, the district level, and feeding it to the state level. Also remembering that this is the beginning of these recommendations, so we also don't want to assume that we know which way is better. So we could think about the language being that we're exploring how schools are going to be held to the Family Partnership Guide, and like what those options would be. Is it a function of SBDM? Is it, there are maybe other avenues, and that's what we're telling the FPC that we think that they should do, is figure out how. That's, right now, no one is enforcing it at all. And we want the FPC to start thinking about how could it be more standard across our schools and districts, and which means someone has to own it.
So can we word it almost like what you just said? Like, instead of saying hire a full-time, say we need to explore how schools can either hire a full-time individual or implement with fidelity this partnership guide.
Yeah,
I like that better, because I immediately, when hire someone, I was like, whoa. And yes, that would be ideal, but I also know districts around where I live cut positions that were needed this year, and then I see, they would like to have those back, and then this is asking them to add something else, might turn them off of the recommendations altogether.
And does the guide include the measurement piece, or is that a separate? So if we say implement the guide, that's one piece, but then that data collection and analysis is the other piece. So it's not about us telling them how necessarily, it's about them telling what we think this is a priority. we're not necessarily focused on how you do it. We got thoughts about that. You could hire someone, but this is what we would like for you to do, is adhere to this guide, use this guide, be familiar with this guide, share the data back, measure what you're doing. And I'm not suggesting for sure. I'm just thinking through this.
I like what Julie just put in the chat. Maybe our recommendation is to assist schools in finding the funding to do it.
The language we used in the second one was explore how KDE might sustain a full-time family and community engagement manager. So we didn't really say hire one there either. I'm just for consistency, because I was just thinking, well, didn't we tell KDE to hire someone, but then we don't want to. So yeah, we were careful. With that language, we said explore how KDE might sustain, because that's obviously a concern. We want to make sure that it's a sustainable position, just like these are. So just want to share that.
Yeah, I like having explore in the bullet, but I like how you guys have it stated in the recommendation that adherence to the Family and School Partnership Guide, that's the recommendation. And then inside that is exploring how schools can implement. And then it might be that we're assisting schools in finding funding sources. So I kind of like them together. Lauren and Jennifer, I hate deleting really good work. Would you all mind?
Do what you can do. Do what you need to do. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Do you mind cutting the text?
Pull it all and start over. We're trying to meet the requirement.
Yes. No,
it is fine. Look, we are absolutely cool with it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll cut that a little bit.
Lauren. You do what you need to do. No feelings hurt here.
Okay. All right. So where we've landed, we've got a little less than 15 minutes. So determine a relationship building and communications metric that could be added to the Kentucky School Report Card and KDE dashboard. 2, how KDE might sustain a full-time family and community engagement manager. 3, exploring how KDE, researching the best tool and launching an online family guide and monthly newsletter. A lot going into the research piece of that first. And then FPC is supporting the ongoing updates and utilization. I think that's huge. Utilization, like as we're seeing families not use it, the FPC is really here to say, well, because nobody knows about it, or because everybody's tired of apps, like we're the family voice to talk about the utilization moving forward. And then 4, our charge is to adhere, the FPC charge, which is defining it a little more than it's defined right now. Our charge right now is to advise KDE on family engagement. So our recommendation 4 is that our charge a little more clearly defined is that adhering to those 3 recommendations above and implementation of the Kentucky Family and School Partnership Guide. I'm wondering if we want to limit that charge for that year, just because I don't know, we're not saying that forever these are the 3, but that the 2024 FPC charge.
And then are you saying then if the 2025 FPC wants to edit that or add on or whatever they can, so for 2024, this is what we recommend?
I think that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's 2024 to 2026, kind of a 2-year, because there's only 6 meetings. So
that, and I feel like it might take a year just to get it all researched and figured out. And then you don't want it being changed right as you figure out how to implement all this stuff.
Yeah.
Brooke, I do want to mention that I will be trying to secure some dates for our meetings going forward when we have an interim in place.
Okay, great. Oh, good. Oh, thanks, Grace. Okay, so next steps then for this group is to kind of fill in the blanks of the introduction and purpose statement on the first page, and cleaning up the why on the second page, and missing piece. Chris is going to get page 4, the snapshot 2023, out to PTA. Leslie, would you mind to relay to Natasha page 4, since you're on
Page 4?
Yeah,
Okay.
Natasha Stein, she looked at it once, so she might be like, I already looked at this, and she has. Just make sure that there's nothing else that she might want to add. And then Melissa getting a couple school frisk to look at it. And then the recommendations on page 6, cleaning those up. So is anybody a strong writer and wouldn't mind to take a stab at the introduction page? And I could be working on the other pieces. Just kind of the letter of intent, like, and who are we addressing this to? Who did they address the missing piece to? Think to the Department of Education, right? Is there anybody who would want, like, 8 sentences?
I can do it.
Thank you.
But I feel like I might need help. I'm very concise, so it might not be 8 sentences.
Okay.
But I'm an overall, like, big picture kind of person, so I think that I kind of have an understanding of what you want there, but it might be totally wrong because it's my perspective and not yours. So as long as I can send it to you and you can feel free to go, no, let's change this all.
Wait, this is not from me. This is from us. So your take is as valuable as my take. So I welcome the different perspectives. It would be great. Thank you, Lauren. All right, I put you up there.
Want that?
Say it again.
When do you want that? Do you have a deadline?
If I
It's
said
just
by
like
end of next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 15th.
Okay.
15th. Is there any section that someone else is feeling like I could take a stab at that? I don't mind to do the why. I kind of know where that was pulled from and could fill that in. CPAC, just kind of setting the stage of what CPAC did in 2006. Just like a few 5 to 6 sentences on that page that just kind of explain those 4. Does anybody feel comfortable with that? I'll do, Lauren, if you do that front page, I'll take a look at the rest of it. If folks can just be ready to comment back the week towards the end of next week. And then that way we can get it to KDE by the 18th, Leslie, is that right?
Yes, that'll be fine if you get it to us, and then I'll find out who we can maybe get to put the information together.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you all, this is exciting. I'm really excited to have some like recommendations and work to follow, and we can see what progress we're making. So, all right, that's all I have. We've got like 11 minutes left. Is there anything that anybody, just kind of for the good of the group, or announcements that anybody would like to make?
When will we know, like, when the next, if we're continuing on this, and I would have to check with KASC to see if they still want me representing them or not. But when would we know when this starts back up and like when our meetings would begin again?
Usually I set the meetings late summer, midsummer, late summer. But this year with the commissioner leaving, and I always work with his scheduler. I thought I'd better wait until we got someone in place to put it on that person's schedule rather than Dr. Glass's schedule. So as soon as they name someone, I will get in touch with the scheduler, the commissioner's office, and I will get something out to you all. And I'll also let everybody know where they stand as far as being on the council. Because we do have some that rotate off. And then we have the 6, I guess, different agencies that are represented.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Leslie, anything to close us out?
Not that I can think of. As soon as I have something for you, I will get it out to you. I will try, when we do get someone in place, to go ahead and schedule our next 3 meetings for this school year. So, and as soon as I can get that together and get it to you, I will.
Well, thank you all. And Julie, it was wonderful to have you with us. Bye, you guys. Thank you so much for all your hard work. And if you just want to get on here and type and write, you just go for it. It's an open document. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.